Welcome to Like Pigs in Space, an arts and culture podcast. I'm Aaron Mason.
And I'm Max Mason.
All right, Max.
Yeah.
I think it's your turn this week.
It is my turn this week. And I think this week is where we finally make the description of this podcast true, or at least appear true.
Okay.
Because it says like Aaron is a lifetime reader and Max who finally decided that reading was okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to finally be talking about a book.
Oh, good.
And I have this chair. This chair is so squeaky. And I thought it had stopped and now it's back.
Well, it creates atmosphere.
Yeah.
And authenticity.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to talk a little bit about like my history with reading, because it's not a lot.
Okay.
I haven't really done a whole lot of reading, and not that there's really any reason for that. You know, I think part of it I could always like excuse as like, I don't know, ADHD or something, or not wanting to pay attention that long. But I think there just wasn't really a lot of interest in like what a story could be.
Right.
Or like what I could get out of a story that I couldn't get out of like a show or a movie or song or whatever. And I really tried to think about it, like how many books I'd read in my life up until recently.
Okay.
And if I'm being generous, I don't think it's really more than like 30 books.
Right.
And I think if I take out like books I read for school, it's probably less than that.
Yeah. Which, and it was a confusion to us too, because it wasn't that you couldn't concentrate, because as we were just talking about, you could sit and do a whole transcription for an orchestra for hours on end, and completely what most people would see is kind of boring or tedious.
Yeah.
So, which a lot of people, that's why they don't read. It's boring and tedious, but you did boring and tedious, so just fine.
Yeah. I remember in high school, you know, we got my high school, all the students got iPads.
Right.
And I would spend a lot of time during the summer pulling up scores for orchestras and then listening to like the music and then reading the score with it.
Right.
That I think at one point you were a little concerned, like, are you watching something you shouldn't be watching? And I like, it's just a score, I promise. It's notes.
Yes. Yeah. It was still concerning, but in a different way.
Different kind of concerning.
Right. Right.
But that changed in this year. In 2025, I made it my goal to read a book, at least one book every month. Okay. Which would be, close to double the amount of books I probably read in my life.
Right.
It seemed easy enough. But it was pretty hard to start. Like the first book I picked up, I bought it for Chloe for her birthday, but it was the Rick Rubin's Creative Act, or whatever the title of it is. And it's not that it's a super long book, but it did take me about like a month and a half to read.
Right.
When really it probably should have taken a couple days. There's a lot of empty space in that book.
Oh, okay.
But I think so. But I had a couple of reasons for wanting to do that. Yeah. I think there's really three main reasons. And two of them kind of work together. The first one is I just got sick of ads.
Okay. That makes sense.
They were just everywhere and they were so stupid and I couldn't do anything about it. And I didn't want to pay to like get rid of ads when I'm already paying for, other streaming services. I didn't want to pay for YouTube or anything. So I just kind of got sick of it. And I was like, well, books don't have ads.
Right.
There's no, mid-rolls in a book usually. Right. I mean, the second was I just wanted to grow as a person, kind of expand my brain. And I also was more interested in stories about people who were different from me. Okay. So like reading through like descriptions of books, I've noticed I've been gravitating towards books that are like more like queer or have to do with like racial injustice, just things that I haven't experienced and won't experience. Right. I think those have been more interesting. And third is really that I'm really, really afraid of growing up and having dementia or Alzheimer's or something. Yes. And it really freaks me out. And I was thinking like, well, I should at least make my brain as healthy as I can. Yeah. And I feel like reading would be a good way to do that. Like, I don't know, I feel like that'd be the simplest way.
I share your fear, mostly because of family experiences and all that kind of stuff, and seeing it happen to people who kind of gave up on doing stuff, and who are related. That I've been doing a lot more to do projects and do activities and do this is part of it, because it's just a necessity now.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad you have that fear too.
Yeah.
We can all be fearful together.
So I didn't really know where to start with books because there's a lot of books, you know?
Yeah, there are.
And so I really just, my main source, the main thing that I did is I went to the Powell's book site.
Okay.
And they changed their website recently. I don't like it as much, but they had this old style that was kind of like database-esque.
Yeah. Cool.
Where you could just like, they had all the names of all the employees and you could just go through each one of them and find their book recommendations. And you can like go by genre and, you know, say like, oh, this person suggested this book. And they'd have like a little spiel about why they suggest it. And,
oh, cool.
And I did the one thing that people always say not to do. And I judged every book by their cover. I was thinking like, well, if the cover can grab me, I'll read the summary and see if that's interesting too.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like that's probably is a really good way. Like there's a lot of books. And if you're just going to try and be, I don't know, objective about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. You might spend a lot of time reading things you don't really care about.
Yeah. I used to walk through the library and just, because I did read, but I used to walk through the library and just pull books out and see what grabbed me by the title. And if sometimes the library books will have a little blurb on the front. Mm-hmm. When they're kind of library copies, and I just like, okay, no, okay, oh, I'll try this one. Yeah, and it was a lot of judging a book by its cover, and I just gamble.
Yeah,
you know, so.
Yeah. That's another thing I really like about the Powells is they don't just like promote their new books or whatever.
Right.
If you go through the aisles, there's tons of little like 3x5 cards that the people like even draw little pictures and make them like thematic to the book and put a little description on it. So it's a lot more eye catching and
oh, cool.
Good bookstore.
It is. It's I'm jealous.
And I did get a few recommendations from you too and from other family members.
Yeah.
The first one was the Rick Rubin book. The second one was the Gunslinger, the Stephen King.
Yeah. Cool.
Which was really good. I did like that a lot and made me like, okay, I'm gonna have to read all these books. But then the third book I'll mention in a second. But I realized like when I was going through that like database of books, of like book recommendations, I realized that I started being drawn towards like horror books, which seems strange because I'm not really a huge horror fan. Like I don't really love any horror movies, or I don't like blood that much. I'm kind of squeamish with that.
Right.
But all the books that were horror books, like the stories in them or the situations in them sounded really, really interesting.
Right.
And it's like, well, I think I can risk being a little scared if the story is really good.
Right. I have to tell you, I like scary books way more than I like scary movies, or so I can understand where you're coming from on that.
That's what I think. What I've noticed I've enjoyed is that like as much as the image is put into your head in a book, you can control it a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not just like forced to see what the movie director wants you to see. You can control it a little bit, even if stuff is like very descriptive and visceral.
Right.
You can stop a little bit. But yeah, so I'll talk about this. This is the book. The third book I found has a great cover, very eye-catching. This is the first book in my adult life that I found myself and chose to read.
Okay.
And it's called This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno.
Okay.
I'll show you the cover, not that anyone listening could see.
Oh, wow.
This is like kind of hypnotic looking effect, and the dog.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the orange text is like pretty catching. A good orange.
That's a very nice dog.
Yeah. So yeah, this book was published October 12th, 2021.
Oh.
And it's the author's debut novel. This is the first novel he wrote. He's written a few other things, like short stories that have appeared in some publications and magazines.
Okay.
But this is the first like full novel he wrote. So yeah, the cover really drew me in right away. And what was also really surprising about this is I read it really fast, and I'm not a fast reader. I don't know if it's just a short book. I mean, it's a standard, like 250 pages, like pretty standard. And it took me like maybe 2 days, and that was crazy really fast. But I feel like I never had that feeling before. It's like, oh, I can't put this down. Like I genuinely had that feeling where it's like, I want all my time while I was going through it. It's like, if I have a spare moment, I want to be reading this.
That's very good, because that means that's what it feels like to like a book.
Yeah.
And that's a good description of it, is that you want to fill your in-between time with reading it.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
I'm glad it did, because I feel like it helped spark that love of reading that I hopefully am going to be able to hold on to for a little while.
Good.
But it made me feel like if a story can be this good and this compelling and beautiful and emotional and all the things that it is, then I just got to read more. There's got to be other ones like it.
Right.
And I have read some really good things I've really enjoyed, but I think this one still stands out to me as really, really great.
Awesome.
But I'm going to try not to spoil it.
Okay.
It's divided into 4 parts, and I'll talk the most about the first part, because I feel like it's like the first 80 pages that won't give away too much.
Okay.
But so it covers a lot of different types of horror, which is kind of interesting. It's not like it's trying to do everything, try to appeal to like the most people, do all these different types of horror. It just feels like as the story goes along, the type of horror needs to change with it.
That's cool.
So there's elements of like tech horror, cosmic horror, folk horror, demonic horror, and like body horror.
Wow.
And all done, like, I haven't read a ton of any of those kind of books, at least before at this point, but from what I could tell from other reviews is that it was done very well.
Okay.
But all of it is a vehicle for grief.
Oh,
that's really
okay.
the
Right.
main thing of this book. I'm going to read the synopsis on the back, because kind of interesting. Ever since Vera and Tiago bought its life has gotten strange. The ads for the world's most advanced smart speaker didn't mention scratching in the wall, eerie music in the dead of night, a peculiar package. Who ordered industrial strength lie? It's weird but amusing right up until Vera is killed and Tiago's world becomes unbearable. The only thing to do is to get as far away from Chicago as possible. But Tiago soon realizes there's no escape, not from his guilt, not from his anger, and not from the evil hunting him, feeding on his pain, looking for a way into this world.
That sounds cool.
It is about that, but it's
Okay.
also a little misleading, I think, because it's a lot more than just that. I also think some of the acknowledgments, let me get to the back here, where he's like talking about what inspired him or what helped him create this, are kind of interesting too. Specifically, like he mentions some authors, like John Langan, Joan Didion, Bret Easton Ellis, some authors like that. But he also talks about some music, like the Cranberries,
Right. Okay.
the XX, 808s and Heartbreaks, which is the Kanye album, and also Downton Abbey.
Oh.
Which is weird. I don't know. I haven't watched Downton Abbey, so I don't know how much that really comes up in here. I don't feel like much, but
That's funny.
And I also saw a description calling it kind of like a blend of Stephen King and H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh, okay.
After reading a few Stephen King things, like, yeah, it kind of has that vibe, that kind of storytelling that he has. But yeah, 4 parts. Oh, yeah.
Does it get also so Stephen King's a good storyteller. H.P. Lovecraft makes you feel creepy and kind of lose hope.
Yeah.
Is there some of that in it, or?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think definitely with like, so I watched a video, interview with him, where he was interviewed by Jeff Vandermeer, who's another writer.
Okay.
Who I like a lot of his books too. I've read a couple. But he was talking about how he wanted to kind of create this story about like possession without it necessarily being tied to religious stuff.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of where he gets the Lovecraft, is because there's a lot of like cosmic horror
Right.
that he goes down to get that possession elements.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, let's get into it. One other thing, so I'll say right away, what's interesting is that it's written in, I believe, second person.
Oh.
So it's like the whole book is addressed to you.
Okay.
So right away, we'll talk about how the description is different, because the book starts with Vera already being dead.
Oh, okay.
So Tiago and Vera, they're married, and it starts with, I'll read the first sentence. Your parents wouldn't let me bury you in a tree pod, mostly your mom. And it kind of starts with how they were talking about like how they would want to be buried, and they went through a few options until they find like, oh, a tree pod, you just be buried, decompose, they put a tree on top of you. That sounds nice.
Right.
So yeah, it's written like a letter to Vera. Like Tiago is talking straight to Vera.
Okay.
What I really loved, and what I really loved noticing the second time reading through it in like preparation for this, is that it immediately starts with her death, and then quickly starts like filling with a lot of life, a lot of character, a lot of color to Vera, who she was.
Oh, neat.
I also got this feeling reading it the first time, and again, is that like I really like them as a couple. Like I know they're not real, but if they were real people, they'd seem like really great people, really funny and down to earth people.
That's really cool.
They just seem really genuine and really unique. They have a lot of like really funny like inside jokes and a really funny like sense of humor. And I want to read this little part. It's at the funeral, and Tiago is looking through like a book that people sign, like their condolences and whatnot.
Right.
And there's a note from I believe it's one of Vera's nephews.
Okay.
But it says, "Sorry, Tio and Tia, that Vera died, but life is life." And then he says, "It was like he reached into my head and turned off the spigot. Instead of wiping away tears, I was laughing. I was gripping the back of the pew. Life is life. You had to be so inexperienced and emotionally dulled by YouTube channels to point out the obvious truth and not recognize the lack of sympathy that went into it. At a wake, leaving it for the parents and husband of the deceased to read. I knew it right away. It would be the kind of thing. It would have been the thing we'd have said to each other as a joke if we'd read it at someone else's wake. Life is life. If one of us overdrew from our account, life is life. If your mom begged you to visit her and then spent the whole time criticizing you, life is life. If you missed the train and your phone died, life is life."
Yeah.
This is like totally something that would happen. And I've had it happen in my relationship. Just this funny little sentence that comes out of nowhere that you just end up repeating forever.
That's awesome.
Even more though, in these first couple pages, you really feel his grief and what he's going through. You get these like really hard like gut punches for how he's feeling. I have a couple.
Okay. All right.
It goes, "My deepest condolences," her sister said. "I can't imagine how painful this must be for you." Yes, she could. They all thought they could, but they just didn't want to admit it. People cannot bear to think that there are channels to human experience that are closed off to them, that they'll never know. People want to believe their experience is universal, that nothing's outside their scope.
Right.
And then just a little later on the same page, he's talking to like about her friends, Vera's friends. And then he says, "What they say, call me. What they mean, it's your responsibility to let me know when I have to care."
Yeah. That's how loss is.
Yeah.
You know who has experienced it and understands the best way to approach it and is comfortable with having gone through it and having dealt with it. You can see who's the most settled by the way they respond when you're going through it.
Yeah.
And how they reach out to you and what they say.
And then there's this other line where I believe he's at like a party with some of Vera's friends, and they start like impromptu telling stories that they remember of experiences they had with her. And he just feels like he doesn't say anything. He just feels like it's kind of cheap to diminish her down to that.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "I had no story to follow. My favorite character was gone." So you just get these like hits every once in a while. But he's just telling the story, and then every once in a while you'll realize like man, this guy is going through some stuff.
Yeah, and I bet you even over the course of it that his response there would change in a different day. Like in a different day he could share it. But in that day he was, the character was gone. So that's a good way of putting it.
And then it goes into a little bit of how they met, and how right away Vera's mother didn't like Tiago. Like she could read him right away and kind of like could read his whole family history. And he goes into a little bit about his family history, how his like great, just like a couple generations back, where they pretended to be a part of the posse of Pancho Villa. And so they would pretend to be a part of Pancho Villa's group and like rob people. And so he has this whole family of just, scoundrels,
right?
Basically.
Right.
And he was always seen as like the golden child because he hadn't done anything wrong and didn't have a kid by the time he was 18.
Oh.
I think there was also a point where he would come home from school and his dad would just hit him and he'd be like, "What was that for?" And he's like, "You knew what you did." Like just assuming that he had done something wrong at school because everyone in their family was like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then it talks about their issues with their new home. Like they bought their first condo together, and they bought an Itza. It's really funny, the references in this book, because he talks about like IKEA and Zillow and all these sites, but he won't talk about Amazon. Because it's very clear it's an Alexa from Amazon, but this in the book is an Itza from Sahara.
Oh, wow.
Which I think is funny. I don't know if he just doesn't like Amazon or thought they would be litigious for some reason.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so their Itza arrives and starts responding to like commands no one gave and ordering junk. Like it ordered a dildo and 100 mouse traps and the industrial strength lye. And they were just like, well, they'd always send it back and just get the refund, even though they hadn't even ordered it. And so they decide to call the seller of the house to ask like if anything was weird about the previous owner, if they reported anything. And initially he was like, if you have any issues, just like refer to the homeowner's manual. And they're like, no, really, we need to know like if anything had happened. And apparently the last owner, he was like, I don't know, the seller, like, I don't know if they were upset that we were kicking her out. But when we arrived, the place was just trashed. Everything was, torn apart. But there was a ring of candles with an animal corpse in the middle of it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
That'll mess things up.
Yeah.
And invite in some.
That reminds me of something. YouTube was up and one of the little frames said real stories of what happened, real stories of homemade Ouija boards. I'm like,
yeah.
And it's like, I know what the end of the story is. It all went bad.
It's always going to end bad.
It's always going to end bad. Here, the end. It's bad. The end.
Yeah. So they find out this about their apartment, and then just a little while later, Vera wakes up late for work and is rushing and is just like, I'll just go, I'll run. And Tiago like offered to drive her to work, but she's like, no, I'll just go. And as she's going up the stairs, this kid runs into her, not paying attention, and knocks her off the stairs, and she like falls down the platform and cracks her head. So just this totally random, out of nowhere thing. And when the kid is finally arrested, he doesn't have any papers, any sort of documentation.
Oh. Okay.
So it becomes this huge, heavily politicized event where her face is just like plastered everywhere as like the face of like anti-illegal immigration, or people just like contacting him to be like, hey, immigrants are very important, or it's like, hey, this is why we need stronger borders. Right. And just being like, yeah, even in like the beginning of the book, it mentions that at the funeral, the media was like filming them from outside the gates. Oh. It was just this huge story.
Well, that's unpleasant.
So she finally dies. She's in the hospital in a coma for a little while, but she finally dies. And Tiago finds out that she had been paying into this massive life insurance policy.
Oh, okay.
So he gets a sudden payout, like this massive like 6-figure payout. And I'll go to the last page, because right before the end of the chapter, the Itza just starts going crazy.
Oh, fun. And
it starts giving out all these like really cryptic like pop culture references that were programmed into it for fun. So it's like, it says like, I'm having trouble locating that for you. And he says, it's off. And then says, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. And he's like, what's that line from? And again, it's like, you can't handle the truth.
Oh.
They're like, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that for you.
Right.
Or afraid I can't do that. Just all these like out of nowhere. There's even like a Matrix quote.
Nice.
And so it ends with him unplugging the Itza, or this section ends with him unplugging the Itza and the next morning running it over with his truck, getting rid of it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So what you should do when something's going crazy and you can't really understand it.
Right.
And it was like they talked to some of their friends at one point. It's like, hey, our Itza is doing this weird thing, and they're like, oh yeah, ours has done that too, like it's ordered weird things or just said something that no one, or responded to something no one had said, and they're like, oh, we just like keep it away from the TV. And so they tried to be like, oh yeah, it's just something, but they gave each other a look that's like, we both knew it was more than just that.
Right.
So that's the end of part 1. We get to part 2, and Tiago sells everything, sells their condo, takes this payout, and moves to Colorado.
Oh. Okay.
From Chicago, and he ends up buying a cabin in a town called Estes Park,
right?
Which I don't know if you know what it's Estes Park. One of the famous things there.
What is it?
It's the Stanley Hotel.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was pretty
So,
sure that's where we're going.
yeah, not that it has anything to do with the Stanley Hotel, but just
But
a
it kind of,
nice little reference. And
it doesn't, but it does. It
yeah,
doesn't.
right. So he buys this cabin kind of sight unseen outside of the town, up on a hill, looking down on it.
Yeah.
And just settles into his new life. He's just like, I can't be around it anymore. I just need to be alone.
Okay.
So on the first day, he goes to a hardware store and finds this big. He says in the book, and I don't want to look it up right now. Those big dogs.
Oh yeah.
Big fluffy dogs. The Saint Bernard.
Saint Bernard. Yeah.
Yeah, he finds one of those outside the hardware store and like immediately bonds with it, and he goes around trying to find its owner and just can't. And so he takes it home. Well, he takes it to a vet and is like, yeah, no one's reported missing. There's a shelter next county over, but it might be a kill shelter, so you can just hold on to him. And he names the dog Wilfred Brimley.
Nice.
So he immediately has this like new best friend, this new animal to take care of.
Right.
And a couple days after, Brimley like runs into the woods. He takes him out to pee, and he runs into the woods thinking that they're playing.
Oh yeah.
And as they do, they come across this like monolith in the woods of like rocks and moss and stuff, and which is also really interesting because like I've always been kind of interested in monoliths. I think they're kind of fun, and like I really liked the 2001 Space Odyssey movie.
Right.
As much as nothing happens in that movie, I really love it. And there was also in like 2021, there's a lot of like monoliths that kind of appeared all around the world. And I've also kind of I was always kind of interested in like the Georgia Guidestones.
Right.
Even though they're a little eugenicsy and
yeah,
might have some like KKK ties. But they also don't exist anymore. So
yeah, we saw that's wild stuff.
So that's all, just kind of a fun thing to think about, and think about like what the monolith signifies.
Right.
Because like it's pretty clear, like in the movie, it signifies a jump in human development or in like technological development.
Right.
And I do want to say this, and this will be probably the biggest spoiler in all this, but I know that this is important to a lot of people. Like there's whole websites dedicated to knowing this piece of information.
Okay.
The dog does die.
Okay.
But don't worry because he comes back. But also do worry because he comes back.
Oh no. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he dies from a cyanide bomb that was on his property that I guess the Bureau of Land Management used to like repel wolves or something, and wasn't disclosed that it was on his property.
Right.
And so the vet suggests like, oh, if I were you, I would just sue the Bureau of Land Management. You get a huge payout because they didn't tell you about this, dangerous device on your property.
Right.
And you get this line: "My head hurt. I was tired of getting money in exchange for loved ones."
Yeah.
Oh, there's another line before I get along too far about when he just arrives at the cabin, and you get this line. He's out on like the back porch of his cabin there. An owl flew over the cabin and swept into the tree line. I stepped aside for you to see, and then remembered you were dead.
Aw.
So it just is always like caught up and so connected to this person that he instinctively wants them to see this owl flying, and just
it becomes like a phantom limb.
Yeah.
Just to backtrack a little bit for your monolith interest, the thing we just saw that was really interesting, I think it's on Expedition Unknown or something like that, one of those Josh Gates ones, but they've uncovered this buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And they were built during a time period when they thought that it was only hunter-gatherers.
Okay, yeah.
And it is a hunter-gatherer group, very primitive, but they're massive monoliths that were holding up monoliths that were the pillars that are holding up a large round roof, huge gathering place, and they've got carvings in them that are just really cool.
Yeah.
And they predate the pyramids by many thousands of years.
Wow. Yeah.
and they are pretty sure there's a lot more of them that just look like mounds now. They just haven't uncovered. So that it is fascinating stuff for sure.
Yeah. I know there's like something very alluring about how simple they are, but how they feel like they should mean something.
This should mean something.
Yeah. This is a sign.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's maybe it's the effort or the accomplishment of stacking something that high and not having it fall over. Feels like it should mean something.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna skip
Okay.
most of part 3. Some stuff happens,
Okay.
and he ends up going back to Chicago.
Okay.
So he's back in Chicago, and I don't want to say too much that's happening. I'll read this section because it doesn't really tie into like what's happening, but I think it's a pretty interesting paragraph. I'm afraid that when we die, we end up wherever we always thought we'd end up. If we want to go to heaven, we go to heaven. If we believe in reincarnation, we come back as a baby or an animal or a tree. If we think we're going to hell, we'll burn forever and we'll never realize that we were the ones that put ourselves there.
Wow.
So kind of interesting viewpoint, and I don't know if this is the viewpoint the author has, or if just Tiago's experiences up until this point have led him to that.
Well, from what you've divulged so far, it sounds like there is that he's still grieving, and that's a very grief forward viewpoint.
Yeah. And I think, also with the story, you can get other things. If I don't want to go too much into it,
because I have to read it. And find out for myself, right?
Yeah, and I will tell you this, because this is a crazy line, and I'm not going to give any context to it. But when you read it, it's crazy. I'll just say, "It was you, man." That's the line.
That's a teaser, huh?
So it kind of has a somewhat vague ending, but I really like things like that. I like stories like that where you don't know right away what happens, because I think it helps the story stay with you. Like, I still think about this pretty often, and especially right after I finished it, it was in my head constantly for like a couple weeks. You just keep thinking back to, was there anything I missed along the way that would have informed me more about what's happened. But that's where I think I'll end the book discussion. I do think this was like the book that was going to get me into reading, because of a lot of like even the cultural references in it. There's the 2001 Space Odyssey. There's Pancho Villa, which is something we talked about a lot growing up. There's even like those Precious Moments figurines he mentions at one point, not in any way, just as a description, but just things that I have kind of experienced or know a little bit about. Just like, oh, hey, I get that.
Right.
And not that a story needs that for it to be good, but I think it's what some story needed for me, and to really spark me into wanting to read more.
So when you read the back cover, the summary or whatnot, I can tell you I would have picked up the book too, because the way that was written had a quirkiness to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when there is ability to have some humor, even though things are going poorly, I think is really interesting, because it's a different kind of humor. And, and that kind of leads to, and you have a bit more, but I was kind of wondering, because you said you were judging things by the cover, and do you feel like the cover suggested anything? Did the cover represent what you read very well, or was it kind of you picked it up because of a cool cover and then you found out what it was and that was a different thing?
I think that if anything, I feel like the cover really represents the ending.
Okay.
In a way. It's really cool. So, it's written in this like second person view, and there's this really cool shift that feels like the camera pulling back.
Oh, cool.
As things wind down. Oh, the other thing was the Powell employee description also kind of drew me into it, because all they really said was like something like, I can't fully express the grip that this book has had on me. And it's like, this book will rip your heart out and present it to you still beating.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. That seems like it.
Yeah. So that's the book. It's kind of hard to talk too much about it. So I think that I want to do something a little different.
Okay.
Kind of turn it around a little bit, because I imagine that this book will feel a lot different to somebody who has lost someone close to them. And I really haven't in my life. Like my grandpa's died when I was like 4.
Right.
I didn't really know him that well. I think also in like the spirit of why, I'm here in Spokane right now for the like a celebration of life for Chloe's grandpa.
Okay.
And I was thinking, if you don't mind, I want to ask you about your dad.
Sure.
You think that's okay?
Yeah, I will survive.
Okay. I have some questions here, and hopefully they are good.
Well, I'll just preempt this by saying that I did everything I can to make sure that you didn't have the same experiences I did with loss at the same time. So,
Oh, yeah.
because I have outlasted him by a couple years now. Which,
yeah. Because you were a little bit older than I am now when you lost your dad.
I was 30.
Yeah.
Because I was the oldest. So it would have been like when Veronica, if I had passed at 52, it would have been, that's who it would have been. And that was a nerve-wracking year. Ezra was very concerned.
Oh, yeah.
That whole year he was
2001.
Well, my dad passed away in 2001, but when I was turning 52, when I was 51, Ezra knew for some reason and was anxious about it more so than I would have anticipated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would have been 2021. So it was the year after we got here. No, it would have been 2023. So just before he was getting ready to take off, you know, it's, leading up to that. So I turned in January and then he left in August. So that whole time he's kind of, I don't know. It was funny. It was funny, but
more than you would expect from him.
Yeah. Sometimes. And maybe somebody mentioned it and they kind of latched onto it or something. But yeah, go ahead. What you got for me?
All right. First question. Where were you when you got news of his passing?
Yeah, so maybe I can give you a couple of parts of that because it was really interesting. So he was in the hospital and he was supposed to have a quadruple bypass.
Jeez.
Yeah, which is, and he'd had a bypass 5 years before that. And so he developed diabetes and things had progressed and he was still healthy, but it was worse.
Yeah.
So he went in and I called and said, I was like, I'm going to come visit you. When's a good time? It was on Sunday. And he said, well, my brother's supposed to come by. And so, I don't know when I'll get to talk to you. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
And the hospital, the cardiac hospital is on like Power and Southern. So it was pretty far out and we were in Tempe. So it was, a good trek, probably 10 miles.
Okay.
I drove out in to see him and and I was listening to the Simon and Garfunkel CD that we had, but the CD was the album and then it would have some additional tracks because it was a release. And one of them was a Bridge Over Troubled Waters, but it was just the piano and it was just like the demo. And so that's what I listened to on the way out because it's a longer song. And so that is of course, appropriate Bridge Over Troubled Waters. I get out there, I get to talking to him, and we're having a nice time, and his brother never showed up. So instead of a few minutes, I got over an hour, but it was a really significant experience. And then I went back to the car, and I knew that he was going to die. I just knew. Yeah. I was like, well, that wasn't enough. And I was very upset and I was like banging on the steering wheel and it's like, that wasn't enough time. And then drove, and I was alone. So I drove out alone, drove home alone. And then the next day was the surgery. And I came out there and they're like, oh, he did great. And they came out and they went back and then they didn't come back out for a long time. Oh. And then they said, well, we were closing him up and he had a massive heart attack and we're trying to keep him alive. And so he never regained consciousness. And so all that to say is I was there. I was with my mom when she had to make the decision to take him off life support, which was about, I think, so surgery was Monday. It was probably Tuesday or Wednesday morning. I think it's Wednesday morning and there was still no brain activity. So again, he was probably already, they were keeping him alive. His heart was still beating. Brain wasn't working. He was gone already. So I was there in the hospital. So, and I had to help make the decision and, say, there's really, if he comes out of it, he'll be a vegetable. Like he won't. Yeah. There's no. You'll just be caring for him. He won't be able to function. It's just there's no good that will come of trying to resuscitate him further because they tried plenty. So that's where I was when I found out. That was less.
There.
Yeah. The previous month was more shocking because that's when your mom's dad died, and we were woken up by her uncle telling us. So,
Oh, yeah.
because he was, so both were interesting, very different experiences, but yeah.
Yeah. What was the grieving process like for you, if there's any significant part of
Sure. Some of this can be told because it's 20 some odd years later,
it?
right? So at the time, it was interesting because I can be a little bit more detailed because some of the stigma of what I went through is no longer stigma. So,
Yeah.
but it was 2001. So just to understand, Linda's dad passed away in May. My dad passed away in June. Your mom, we were pregnant with Claire.
Yeah.
That was not going well. Claire was supposed to be born in January. She was born 10 weeks early.
Yeah.
And then in between June and November, 9/11 happened.
Right.
So it was a great year. Like it was tragedy stacked on tragedy, stacked on tragedy.
Right.
So there was a lot going on. I was working, and because I was working at DHL. There was, it was weird because that hit the industry really hard. All the transportation and everything that happened. There was a lot of stuff that happened. It's kind of like today where there's a lot of government stuff that happened that was impacting us. And I was, we had some furlough stuff happen. So we had reduction in, I think they cut our pay by 5% because of the impact on the industry because of the whole thing. And so another tragedy. So I didn't know because I'm not somebody who's depressed usually. I usually don't, especially then.
Yeah.
But I was showing signs of depression, which is understandable, especially in the circumstance and especially with everything going on. And like Claire was in the hospital for 4 weeks in the NICU. And so every day was at least 2 trips over there to spend time with her and all you guys, and
3 other kids.
Yeah, and the 3 other kids that were around and going back and forth and back and forth. And so I was, in some ways, I was too busy to grieve, but also I was too busy to grieve for very long.
Okay.
And I, every day for the first, for that first year, and I tell a lot of people this because in the first year after somebody close dies, you're going to think about them every single day, at least once. Probably 10, 12 times. And you're going to think a lot about them. And you're going to think a lot about, what opportunities there were, whatever. And then in the second year, things, maybe every other day, maybe every day sometimes, it may be more significant around significant dates. But then it starts lessening. And that doesn't mean that you care for them less. It just means other things ramp up.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, we could feel, we'd feel that we were being supported. So that comment from the book where he's like, call me, but that's us telling them when to feel and how to feel about
when you need to care.
When you need to care, yeah. Some of that happened too. And we were in a pretty decent place then where we had friends and we got a lot of support and we had been in the area long enough to have a group of friends, which was good. I was married with all these kids, with 3 kids.
Yeah.
I don't mean it like that, but I mean married with 3 kids, working, and I was going to school. I forgot about that. I was going to school. Didn't do well for my schooling, that's for sure. But I didn't realize it. I didn't realize I was messing up, right? Because I was like, I've got everything handled. So I was in school full time, working full time, kids, all that kind of stuff. And so I got busy, but then I did get, your mom told me, hey, I think you're depressed. And so I went and saw a doctor. We got some antidepressants and I took them it was like 9 months. And about 6 months in, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to take pills anymore because I don't like taking pills really. But and I got and the type of medicine, if you're not creating the chemicals on your own, it makes you dizzy.
Oh yeah.
And so, coming off of it, I was like, oh, okay, it's not time. I got back on, but then like 3 months later, I was like, let's see again. and I was feeling better, and it did make a difference, and it did help me. It was good, but I could also tell when I started being better, which is nice. That doesn't
That's
always
good.
happen, right?
Yeah. Right.
So mine was a situational depression, which is, and I got help and it took care of it. And I can talk about it, and I am okay with everything that happened, and I'm fairly stable about it, and I can talk about death and grieving with others.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of my siblings can't or couldn't. They were grieving for a lot longer and having a lot longer time period of having difficulties. And the situation I was in was actually an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And because the 3 younger brothers weren't married.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were doing it on their own. And, my mom's crazy. So they weren't getting a healthy response from her, and she was grieving, and she was messed up all the time over it. So I know that's a lot, but
that's okay. Yeah,
but that's but I did go through it well. I only I did have a time where I was supposed to I was asked to give a talk in South Carolina. You may even you were probably there, but I just had surgery, and I'd never had surgery before, and I didn't know how. Anyways, I had surgery the week before, and so it's only been like 7 days or less. And then I made the mistake of writing about my dad for some reason. And when I read it, when I wrote the talk, it was fine. When I read it, it was fine. When I got up to give it, I lost it hard.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I couldn't get through it. And I pulled it together, but I got all high voiced and squeaky. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm, but a lot of that was because I was just out of it, because I was just out of surgery, not maybe 4 or 5 days. Bad timing. Yeah. But
yeah. I think that maybe talks about a little bit, or answers a little more of the next question.
Okay.
Do you feel like it's still ongoing, the process, the grieving process?
I think I've come to terms with it actually quite a while ago.
Okay.
I don't feel I know I'm not grieving it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I do. There's been a few things that are interesting that happened. So, I did find a binder I had of all the letters I wrote home, and letters that he responded to me. Mm-hmm. So he had kept them all in a binder, and I found it. And so there's things that I feel bad that I missed, that I didn't realize who my dad was. Right. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that I grieve, but it's not really grieving. That's the things I feel like, oh, I didn't realize who this was. And so like, I really enjoy having these talks, because and I've gone to a great effort. So our relationship, and mine in particular with you kids, is very different than my parents with me. Mm-hmm. In the sense that we talk more about more things. And so I found a letter that he wrote, and he had found this article about cow flatulence.
Yeah.
And so he'd put the article in, he goes, oh, this is funny. And he wrote a letter to me. And reading the letter is exactly what I would have written if I had sent it to you. Okay. So like, it was that same quirky, I was like, oh, I came by this honestly. Like my dad did all the things that I do. Like he would draw, he would write, he did poetry, just differently. Like that wasn't it wasn't a major, it was a minor in his life, but it was there. Yeah. Okay, that's the difference, is I made it more of a major. But I did come by it honestly, and he's probably has a lot of credit of being the pioneer in that, because his dad was not that way, and his family was not that way. They're hardworking, they're great people, they're nice, but they weren't the creative types. And going back several generations, whereas on my mom's side, there's a lot more creativity and like people in vaudeville and things like that. So, so there was a difference. There's like the farmer, blue collar, or trucker side, and the creatives, college educated or artists on the other side. Yeah. And he's the crossover. So, and so I do find difficult. So I know, but I also know that I'm damaged in certain ways. Yeah. Because I don't seek help from other people, because I haven't had help in 30 years, 25 years. Like in that way, where I know people that are 70 that are talking about going and helping their dad.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You know, like
Right.
that. I'm okay with that, but sometimes I get a little angry for about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I didn't have, and so that's what your mom said. Like, oh, why are they going to why are they going to Spokane? I'm like, oh, she's something with her grandpa. He goes, oh, Chloe's bragging about having a grandpa.
Yeah.
Max doesn't
Basically.
have a grandpa. So I know there's a cynicism and there's a broken parts of me because where I don't function the same as others who had their parents for longer.
Yeah.
So, but I don't see it as a weakness. I don't really see it as a bad thing. I just know that there is a difference.
It's just there.
Yeah, it's just there, and I know it. I'm fully aware. I fully own, and I know that it could be better. But it probably makes me closed off a little bit to some people.
Next question.
Okay.
I got a lot of them here.
No, that's good. This will be great.
What were you thinking during or the days following his funeral? If you remember. I know.
A little bit. So I thought highly of my dad, and I thought that he was thought highly of. And his funeral was well attended. There was a lot of people there, and it's hard because I've been through a few. I've had to conduct 5 or 6 funerals in the last few years myself, and it's sad, but I can kind of compare.
Oh yeah,
you know, because most of the funerals that I've been a part of here have been a little quirky. There's been some that are just normal, but most of them have been weird situations.
Okay.
Just weird meaning the families had issues, or there's very sitcom-ish where there's infighting, or they just didn't have friends and family or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's just been a lot of quirky funerals. And so it's been interesting because his was just a normal funeral, and there was a lot of people there, and there's people from work, and there's people who just really liked him. And it was nice to see that he was as well liked as I thought he should be. Because and not like if nobody showed up I would have been all that sad. It was for us anyway, but because I knew how he interacted with people and that he cared for people, and I try and do a lot of that because he was genuinely interested in people, even people I thought like, why are you being, why do you care about that person? Because they're just kind of a weirdo, but you're nice to them and you care for them and you're generous to them. And so it taught me a lot. And those were my immature teenage thoughts, right? I understand now, but
right.
And some of those lessons I didn't learn in his lifetime, I realized what he was trying to teach me later on when it became relevant. So, nice. So the initial was people were there, people stood up for him or showed up for him, and we had a comparison between. There's a little bit of a comparison between Linda's dad and my dad's funeral, but they were both very well attended because they were both similar characters in the book, right? Like if there's a book, they were the first there and the last to leave at any event to help out and put up chairs and blah blah. They were the helpers, and they were good people and they worked hard, and both of them were personalities very different, but also a lot the same. And so. And so it was good that there wasn't an imbalance too, because it would be sad if one of the dads had 3 people show up and so it was nice though. It was nice that a lot of people showed up. And that was
Not that I'm doing any sort of planning, but what would you like for your funeral? Like so aside from like the ceremony, but even just like the burial and
So I'll tell you the weight of what you just asked. Okay, so you have no idea what you just asked, and if I was in a worse place, it would be very triggering. Only for this situation, only because it's you asking me, and you're the oldest son. But we had driven out to West Virginia, or we'd flown out to West Virginia, picked up your Grandpa Ashcraft's Suburban, and a bunch of stuff, and driven back, and had the funeral. Then we went out there, got back, and just a week before my dad died. But I had a conversation with him and saying, "Hey, we did Randy's funeral. What do you thinking about funerals? What would you like at yours? Like you just asked. He had the whole plan. He told me what music, really? Kinda. He's like, I want this song. I want this. This. Like he had. I don't have it. It's not intentional that I don't have it, but I don't have it planned to that degree because I don't feel the need to yet. I think he felt the need to. I think he knew. Yeah. But somehow, cosmically, he knew that it was his time was drawing short, and he had way more information than I was expecting. It actually kind of caught me off guard. But I do know with how things have changed, and both your mom and I are kind of talked about this, is I don't know that we really want burial, right? Or if we want someplace like they had in South Carolina where it was a natural burial where you just throw them in a box and let them decompose. Yeah. And there's this balance. This is where the thought comes from. In the old days, I felt like it was necessary to have a burial plot, to have a marker, some information, so you could remember who the person was. Yeah. And I feel like I have enough of a digital presence. Yeah. And otherwise that you can figure out who I was, Yeah. And so I've tried to make my mark enough that if I'm cremated or put in a box or dumped in the ocean, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But also we've talked about if you can't bury me, meaning I got shot out of the sky over the Middle East, because that's a real possibility, sure, that it's fine. Like your mom's like, hey, you're doing what you love, and I get twice the insurance. So yeah. So, we try and be positive about it, because I don't really feel it's sad because you missed the person, but I also don't feel it's that sad of an event. If you're a person who's tried to have a good life. Yeah. Whatever that means. So I like music. I like songs. I have a lot of songs that I like. I would have picked some of the same one he picked, which was Come Thou Fount, except for it got overdone in South Carolina. So it's right out.
Got real popular.
Yeah, well, everybody did it. And which was kind of funny.
I think I've thought, hopefully that's a long ways away for me and for you. Yeah. Having to plan out funeral. But I do think that my feelings are pretty similar, that I don't really want too much. Yeah. Like the idea in this book, like with a tree pod, just putting a tree on top of me, sounds great.
I think it's great. I think a funeral itself, I don't want to deny anybody the opportunity to come and have the thing that a funeral is. I don't want to make it weird. I don't want to have anybody, I don't know. We just had one where people got up and just told how horrible the person was, but that they still loved him. Yeah. And it was actually one of the best funerals I've ever been to, but it was still kind of funny to have people well, we all know what he was like. He was a lot, but we really liked him. So, but I don't want it to be people airing grievances. I just want it to be, you get to, because it's a great time to catch up with people you haven't seen in years too. Is like, hey, we saw each other at the funeral, maybe connect. At that funeral in particular, one of the guys I know that was good friends with the gentleman that passed away met his brother, guy's past brother, and got to be really good friends with him. And it was just a neat thing, because he goes, oh, this guy is a lot like his brother without all the baggage, which is really what it's, the other guy's, the brother is accomplished and stable, and the guy that passed away is an alcoholic and crazy. So, but both of them are lovable, both of them. And imagine if we hadn't had the funeral and that missed opportunity to find a new best friend that was a little bit better than the previous best. I mean, sure. Really. Yeah. So I think having a funeral is great. The burial part, I really don't care. Cheap. That's what,
sounds good.
So,
we can get a good deal.
Burn me down, put me in a Pringles can. I don't care. Yeah.
Roll you up and smoke you.
Yeah. I want to be burnt ends. That's all I want to be. I like burnt ends.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. In what unexpected ways did you find comfort?
Oh, that's interesting. With all of it, it was, and I guess it's not unexpected. It was having kids was great. I remember I came home from and this was in that year, but similar things happened. But I came home from the hospital when Claire was born, and your mom was in the hospital, and it had been a rough day. And I went in, I grabbed Josie, who was asleep, and took her into the bed with me just so there was somebody there, because I needed to have somebody there, and it just was, you were not cuddly. And Veronica was too old, and so it just took, brought the baby in, and just, and I had somebody to care for and to watch over, and it was just, so having responsibility, having people be kind, because another thing that happened was because of how the pregnancy was going that year, and because I'd already missed a bunch of stuff with both dads dying, I was getting in trouble at work for missing too much, and it was all legitimate. I wasn't just calling in, but I had a really good boss who said, "Hey, you're almost getting fired, so you need to apply for FMLA, wink, wink, because then you're protected." And it's like, thank you. So I felt very blessed by individuals who watched out for me when I was too out of it to understand. And that's what gave me comfort, is that the guy saved my existence in a small gesture, and I have no idea where he is now. Like I moved beyond that, but that doesn't mean it wasn't one of the most important things ever.
Yeah.
Is that I wouldn't be where I am right now if that guy hadn't said a couple sentences to me. And that kept happening. There's kept being little things that happened and just little gestures that made me know that it was okay.
Yeah.
So
what are some of his quirks, some of your dad's quirks that you are most fond of?
Yeah. So one of them, and what I grew up with, is that he made a conscious effort to not swear and to use elevated language, which was all the funnier when he'd find a word that he didn't know was a swear word in the current vernacular, and he'd use it. But not in a swear way.
Just use it.
Yeah, my favorite was pecker.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, I gotta get that little pecker off of there." And I was like, Dad, currently that is a swear word for male genitalia.
Yeah.
Oh, I won't use that anymore. Like, so he was, that was quirky. He was good about taking care of the yard, and which Linda inherited that somehow. Well, her dad was neurotically good at the yard, but and quirks were, a lot of it was just the fact of trying to be a smart person, and to be, I get this from, able to talk to anybody. He truly could, and I have consciously made an effort to emulate that. I feel that it's natural now, but I made the conscious effort to emulate that, and that he would talk to us. And so, it was interesting. I was delivering furniture, and I was the weird one, because I was like, oh, it was the worst when my dad would sit and talk to us and talk out the issue, because then he's like, "You didn't get beat?" I'm like, "I've never been beat." "You never been beat?" "How you never been beat?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I've never been hit. I've never been spanked, whacked. I got talked to, and it was the worst because it took too long. And you guys know that. You've been through that. And I hate to say quirks, but habits. So he liked movies a lot, and he tried, and he was fairly mechanical, tried to talk to anybody, was educated, and all those things are just things I tried to emulate, and he tried to give advice. So like the advice I gave you that you took when you were working at the grocery store is kind of the advice that I got from him when he was trying to tell me, and another guy, but I kind of combined the two. Just there's a lot of advice that he gave because he knew how business worked, and I try and share my knowledge, and that was something he always tried to do. Those sound like it?
Yeah, that's good. That's so. What reminds you of him?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. There's so you look a lot like him. And so that's
I heard that.
There's some characteristics there, but Lee, oh my gosh, Lee looks like him a lot, and so that is always bad. But what was really interesting is a couple of years ago, my Uncle Dan came, which is Grandma's brother.
Okay.
And he came and visited with my cousin Sam because they were coming to the gym show, and I didn't realize I think that was the most I'd missed my dad in a long time, because they're both about the same age, right? And grew up in the same area, did the same things, like very similar life experience, similar frame of reference, that California thing. And so everything about him was my dad. And that was, it was a great weekend, because a lot of things he said were things that I felt like my dad was saying to me that I hadn't gotten to hear yet, because of some of the different responsibilities I have right now, and things have changed since 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And Dan said all of them to me. And, all the things that were kind of key that I thought, oh, my dad needed to tell me a few things,
Yeah.
And so it's people that are like that, and people that are kind when they don't have to be. Like, there's an older couple here who are always very kind to me in a way that is very much, it's like having my grandparents. And they're actually the same age as my parents would be, like my dad would have been. They're like the same age. So
Nice.
And they have a similar feel to them. Those are the things. And then also geology. So
Oh, okay.
mountains, how the land's formed, rocks, all of that. 1,000% think of my dad.
Yeah.
That was
Nice.
Every drive with him is like, yeah, I see see that hill, how there's got those layers, but they're up like this, and then this one's like this. Well, see, what happens is the plates come together, and there's a shift there, and that pushed up this way, and this went over this way. So that's why it looks that way. And so that's like, and then, but he'd have all the technical names, and he'd explain it. And so that's like me with all the electrical equipment on the power lines now. So
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
you know what that does? That goes. So
we make that part.
Yeah, we might that. Yeah, I've seen that made. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was him with all the geological features, and so that's where I get the love of all of that from, and that really is him in my life.
All right. Well, last question.
All right.
We'll wrap up here. But it's, do you still think about him?
Yes, often, and probably anything I do that's good and responsible and aware of others, I kind of attribute to trying to show some fealty towards who he was and trying to represent being his son. And I don't always have a lot of nostalgia or anything. I kind of do, but I don't really have it towards family stuff. I'm not like, I don't still watch sports. He likes sports, but I do take inspiration from trying to represent who he was, because he was a good person, and he was more than just a good person. He was a good person who went out of his way to be a good person. That's why I try, and I try and understand my privileges and use them to help others, because I'm aware of the privilege it is to live the life I'm living is a privilege that I shouldn't take for granted, and I need to help others as much as I can, and try and take the time as often as I can, and that, whatever that means. But I want to take the time, and I want to make sure that people understand that I care for them and that kind of thing. So reaching out to you to get this started is I have to always try to be better. Does that make sense? Or
That makes sense. That's great. Thank you. Yeah.
So I hope you don't have to answer that question too quickly you just asked.
Yeah.
But do you feel, in all honesty, do you feel that I'm genuine in what I'm representing from that, or have you seen any effort to live up to what I'm claiming that I do? Or
I think it's genuine. I've felt when you first reached out to get this started, I did feel like a genuine want and interest from you, and not just something you had thought of on a whim. And maybe it had just been I don't know if you had thought about this for a long time or anything.
Yeah.
But it felt like something you had thought about thoroughly and had wanted to do, honestly.
It is, and more so it is, I want to make sure with you, and I try, I don't want any of my kids to not know who I was when I pass. And I felt like you're far away, we're going in kind of different directions on just because of the distance, and just because we're not monitoring each other's life constantly.
Yeah.
And so it's even harder to connect. And so I am trying to I'm trying to do this for each of you in different ways. And it's different for every kid, right? But I have been thinking back and forth on this for actually a few years on how to interact with you on a creative level, because I just appreciate your creativity. And the conversations we've had in the last 9 months or so have really
9 weeks.
Well, no, like before that, before when you call and talk about the books you're reading and the different, your conversations were more dynamic. By that time, I was like, this is the time. This is the time where we're both trying to do more. And so it would seem like an interesting key moment. So that's cool. It's just so cool. 9 weeks, huh?
9 weeks. Yeah, this is number 9.
Weird.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate the time. I appreciate you letting me ask questions about this. I told Chloe that this is my idea, and she was like, "Are you sure that's going to be okay? Are you sure that's not going to be like crossing a boundary or anything?"
No. Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, if it is, it's been 20 years. Hopefully he can talk about it."
Yeah. I appreciate that you're thinking of new ways to discuss these things. I'm really learning a lot from you about having conversations. So it's really neat. It's neat to see the innovation or the different takes that you're taking on this. So it's much appreciated. It was a very much appreciated line of questioning, actually.
Perfect.
So,
well, and I hope that, anyone who listens to this and who has had a similar loss could take these questions and hopefully in the way how I wanted to write them, I hope they would be a enhancement to the book. And
that'll be very good. It's kind of like read the questions, think about them, read the book, and then go back and think about the questions again, right?
Yeah.
Is probably a good approach. That's really cool. Good job, Max. That's I just really like how you wrote those. It's very good.
Thanks. Well, I think that's all for now.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your time. And
Spokane's kind of interesting so far. So.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I'll drive safe this week as I go to Mexico. But
next week we'll have a special episode.
Yes.
Number 10.
Yes. After prepare. Cool. I'm hoping to find the book you just did on to be read to me, because I have 8 hours of driving. So
yeah.
So
it's I've done this with a few books where I was like, okay, I've looked up the audiobook versions of it, and it's like, okay, how long will this take me to read it?
Right.
Like, because I can read about the same pace as an audiobook.
Right. Very good.
So this one, I think it was like 5.5 hours or so.
Perfect. I might have to sit in the parking lot for the last hour of it.
Nice.
for One Direction. But all right. Cool. Well, thanks, and it was great. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, and, I did too.
All right.
It was a lot of fun.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.